Welcome to Freaked Out with your co-hosts, Liz and Landon.
What's up, everybody?
Today we are covering the second episode of Eileene Wuornos. She has been bugging me and actually turned off our television show just a few moments ago so we could record this. Has messed around with a lot of different viewers as well when it comes to her particular episode. So again, let us know if anything happens during your episode on our Freaked Out Facebook group.
I love that there were so many people that had many things happen during their episode that weren't too scary or anything. I mean, I personally don't think any of it's scary, but some people have gotten a little scared. But just to prove that she was there to people and that she is strong-willed, and from what she has informed Liz previously, she loves to be talked about. So if you guys ever talk about her and you're talking out loud, expect her to be listening, and she enjoys being communicated with and about. Even if it's bad, she still likes it.
I think it was one of our viewers, they were working, and I think they work at some construction site, and the episode kept turning off and on and off and on, and it was wild. And she said that never happened in any other episode, just this one.
Yes, and anything that happens in our house, I always automatically blame her.
That is very true. She also has a lot of opinions on things from babies to elderly people, and she always gives me her opinion on just about anything.
Like what?
Well, where we're currently staying, there's a pool outside, and normally when I'm at poolside, spirits don't bug me. I'm not sure why, but it's great because I get a little bit of like a mental break. Anyways, when things get too quiet, Eileene likes to come in and bug me. So for instance, there was a screaming child at the pool that was really, really upset. She had hurt her toe or something along those lines. Anyways, Eileene always makes comments like, children should be seen, not heard. And I almost laugh out loud. Not that I feel that way, but it's just so random. Kids are great, but when you're trying to relax and enjoy your pool time, I think that parents should at least take the step to take their children into a different direction and, not let them scream their heads off. There will be women swimming in the pool, and she will make comments about how, spaghetti when wet, that kind of thing.
She's definitely that inappropriate friend that makes comments when you're least expecting it.
Exactly. She's a people watcher as well, and she loves everything and everyone. She really does have a fascination with elderly people, which is something I just recently came to know.
Did she explain why?
She hasn't, but she's very protective of elderly people. There was an older man who was swimming. He leaves his chair right at the edge of the pool so he can get in and get out easily. And he had a very hard time getting back into his chair, and she ran right over to help him out. Like, he had no idea that she was there by his side, but she feels for the elderly, which is kind of sweet. It reminds her of Lewis, I guess. Although they didn't have the best kind of relationship, I think she finds older people harmless and feels secure around them.
What was that question she asked you last week?
I was doing a video reading for a woman who had lost her sister, and Eileene wanted me to introduce her to the sister that had passed on. That's not the first time she's asked me to hook her up with other spirits. She will also make suggestions for me to freak people out and be like, Eileen's here. That kind of stuff.
She's definitely a character, to say the least. I'm definitely spirit sensitive as well, and she is one of those that I can feel for sure.
We had spent a little time in the area that she had hung out in her early 20s and late 30s. She was incredibly excited for us to be there. I recently started to prepare this episode for you guys, and she wanted me to watch this movie, like a made-for-TV movie about her. And honestly, she'll make me watch anything and everything in relation to her life. And when I'm typing or writing something out, she literally stops me and says, "Pay attention, will ya?" She literally eats popcorn and she chews it so damn loud.
She loves anything that's based on her and her life, and she wants to talk about this stuff today. The third installment of Eileene, we will cover the rest of the murders there. Today, she just wants us to talk about her life.
Absolutely. From birth, at least that's how she explained it to me. She knew that one day she was going to be famous, and she shows me she didn't know how it was going to happen, and she didn't know when it was going to happen either, but she knew it was going to happen. She wanted to leave like her legacy in some capacity. She says she feels like it was an inkling or a psychic ability.
A lot of people refer to her as the hooker from hell.
She likes being called the angel of death. She feels like she was doing the world a favor, and she will always feel that way. She even says that God agrees with her. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but that's what she tells me. She always says to me that God is a woman. A lot of men allow their penises to stand in the way of that. She says that word for word, guys, and that a woman was the only one up there who ran the show. A lot of men would drop dead if they knew that, is what she's showing me.
I mean, I believe it. I just sense that there's something else about the energy in that higher power. Women are definitely incredible creatures. Women can give birth to children, and they can use their body to feed children. They can create multiple lives, and women should be placed more on pedestals than they're treated now, currently, to this day. And I'd like to see any man go through some sort of labor. They would probably not last.
I agree with that. She wants to talk about her prostitution days before things escalated. Now, she shows me that she was raped over 350 times, not including her family members or the people that tried to rape her and became her victims. She shows me that that was before she had gotten married, and she was very popular amongst boys and men. And although she engaged in prostitution at a very young age, she got the hang of it pretty quickly. She did not enjoy it. Kissing anybody on the mouth. She shows me that most of the time, men would kiss her or try to kiss her, and it was like gross and sweaty and bad breath, and she got a few cold sores on her lips and mouth, and at the end of the day she just decided she was done with kissing, so she got rid of that quickly.
That would definitely turn anyone off.
Yeah, she said she could barely look at people in their eyes when she was having sex with them because all she thought about was the money, money, money.
What was she like besides her prostitution days?
She said she tried to have a normal life. She said she really did. She would meet all kinds of people. She had a lot of girls that wanted to be her friends, and she remembers a few of them. She said she became extremely attached to some of her friends, and of course she didn't do anything, but she did hate when men would like hit on her. It was like a big trigger for her. They would make her feel very uncomfortable. She said she would wear like mini skirts, and she loved boots with mini skirts, and the guys of course would take that and assume that she wanted to have sex. And she said that she ran into a lot of moments where guys would put her in very uncomfortable situations and she would overreact. She beat up a lot of guys, and she knew how to take care of herself real well.
Well, I'm glad we live in a society that's a little bit better than that now, where we are teaching our daughters that they can wear what they want, and we're teaching our sons, or we should be teaching our sons, that they just can't put their hands on anyone unless there is consent.
She knew she liked women from a very young age. She actually loved women with long hair and beautiful eyes and gorgeous teeth and smile. She was a sucker for a woman, and she says that women pretty much could get her just to do just about anything. She did fall in love a lot, even though she didn't necessarily put it out there. She really did enjoy having all the female friendships that she did. Most of her female friends didn't really last very long. A lot of her female friends would get really creeped out by her after a while, and she would go her separate ways.
Did she make any moves on any of her friends?
She said it happened a couple of times, but she said that she read the signs all wrong, and she regrets those moments because most of the time they made her feel like shit.
All right, well, let's go back and talk about her relationship with Louis Fell. How did that all come about?
He wasn't the same person in the beginning of the relationship as he was a little later on. I know it was only 9 weeks of marriage, but before they got married, they did have a lot of great times together. She shows me he was kind and generous and wanted to make sure that she had a good life. She shows me that things changed in their relationship, but she also believes it was health related as well. She doesn't feel like the man that she married was the same man that she divorced. She also says she talks a little bit about accountability there because she was pretty messed up. She had a very hard time trusting people, and she did lash out a lot at him. She said that she definitely married him for his money, but she also felt like it was probably one of the nicer men that she had encountered in her life.
I'm assuming which is the reason that led her to getting married with him.
Pretty much. He didn't make a pass at her. He didn't treat her awful. He didn't even try to get in her pants for a while. And when they would make love, he cried a lot, and she didn't understand what the crying was about until a little later when she reflected, honestly, and actually after she died and they met again.
So they did meet again in the afterlife.
Yeah, Eileene had a very similar look to his wife before she passed on. He was so in love with his wife, he tried to really bring her back. And then he would make love to her. He would cry because he missed his wife so much. They hadn't been intimate for years as well. In fact, she shows me that after she died, the two of them were able to reconnect after death. And they all have a good laugh. She says he's not a bad person. He did some bad things to her, but she also agrees that she had done some shitty things to him. She shows me that he is happily with his wife again, and his wife was not a fan of him having that interaction with Eileene before or after the fact. They just pretend like the marriage never happened. She calls his wife an old bat. She often tells the story about how the woman was a stiff. I think she's a little jealous. She also mentioned she was able to see her in the afterlife, and apparently she told her right to her face that she wasn't anything special.
I heard that she was afraid of water. Is that true?
Absolutely. Not only did she have a slight fear, but it was actually pretty significant. She also never told anyone her fear because she didn't want them to see this weakness. But her and I have that in common, which is really interesting because she's the only spirit I've felt around a pool. She tells me she no longer has that fear, but had that fear from a pretty young child.
Where did her fear stem from, do you know?
She said she has no idea. She just didn't like it ever since she was really young. She chalked it up to being something from her past. Just continuously kept feeling like she was going to drown.
There was an incident on a boat with a man trying to rape her while she was with Lewis. Did that take place in real life?
Absolutely. She says that there were a lot of men back then that would take what they wanted from her. And he had tried to rape her multiple times, but because he was never successful, it would make him angry and he would try over and over and over again. She said that this particular guy had a very small penis and learned this raping method from his father.
Well, it appears as though she struggled to get along with anybody. Was there anyone in particular that she did get along with other than her brother?
She shows me that she could not stand rich people. She could not stand just about any man. There were a lot of women that she would give her attention to, but she shows me that most of the time these women would make fun of her, and so she just stuck to herself a lot, which is tough, you know. With that being said, though, she says that there were two women who really understood her in her life. One she talks about daily, and the other woman, I believe, died years ago. Both of them were broke as shit, she said. That's how she preferred it. Her people broke as shit. It gave her no reason to want to steal from them. She stole from a lot of people. And she shows me that when the poor were very poor, she didn't get no reason to feel like she had to steal from them. She loved stealing from the rich fuckers, she said.
Did Lewis Fell's lawyer actually beat her up?
She's laughing about this. She said that she needed the dramatic effect. They did get in a very, very heated argument, and he did find some real things about her from her past. She was pissed off and she yelled at him. He did inform other people, including her husband, of, all the things she had hidden in her closet. But there was really nothing that took place in relation to him hurting her, her hitting him. She says it would have made for a very good movie, though, and she needed to have that information in there.
All right, well, let's switch gears and talk about Keith, her brother.
So Keith, in the movie that she made, showed that he had found God. But in reality, he did, but it wasn't in the dramatic way that they made it seem like in the movie. He basically was trying to find a way to get forgiveness. He was trying to get some sort of redemption before he headed off to hell. He was afraid he was going to hell, so he was trying to find some peace and hope that because he understood his sins, that he would not be condemned. He's definitely with her to this day. What's crazy is he did have esophageal cancer, but he actually got it from working somewhere with a high concentration of chemicals. And if he had known that before he passed on, even Eileene, they could have gotten like a large sums of money. And we're talking back then like $1 million, because there were a few other workers that were able to obtain money because they also got cancer. Obviously, it would have taken a couple of years and he didn't really have that time, but Eileene shows me it could have been her. She could have been the one to get rich. She wishes she had spent more time looking into anything along those lines, because she feels like if she had, she wouldn't have been a prostitute, and she probably wouldn't have killed those men. She said, make sure that she emphasizes that word. She says, I don't know though, them fuckers always try to screw me somehow.
Wow, well, makes sense on how he obtained cancer so early in his life.
She says, yes, that and smoking didn't help from what she shows me. He definitely dabbled in some hard drugs as well, and from a young age.
There's a lot of movement in a lot of movies that there's things out there that made Eileene look worse than what she says today. How does this affect her? How does she feel about all this?
It pisses her off because even her mama, who abandoned her at such a young age, really just made a lot of statements about the person that they thought she was. She said that she was a really good girl and she was a smart girl until her grandfather sexually abused her and her brother. She said, no one will even understand why I became the way I did. I just had enough. I just wanted to be able to live. I wanted to have a good life. I always started over. Every single chapter of my life, I would leave a very toxic situation and then start fresh somewhere. Things always escalated, and she said she tried to stay away from the bullshit. She says, I really did. She said, I didn't want the drama. I didn't want the nonsense. I just wanted to live my life. I wanted to be able to have a job like everyone else, pay my bills like everyone else, and find someone to make me happy. Sure, I had the paranoia, but I think it was warranted.
Well, that's right. Didn't she say that she had some sort of schizophrenia?
I believe so. She says she felt like she had a lot of disorders. She had no medication to take in either. She says they didn't take the hooker medication plan at the drugstore. She also said she did take a lot of street drugs, but none of them fixed what was going on inside of her head. She says she did steal one set of pills from one of her clients at one point because they had no money, so she beat the living shit out of them, and she was able to take the medication that actually made her head feel a little clear. Unfortunately, the medication bottle was not marked, so she could never find out what it was. She said it was some real shame. She actually felt normal for a few days the first time in her life.
Is there anything else that she would like to share with us today?
She wants everyone to know that it's okay to be different and it's okay not to be normal. Society has a way of making people feel like shit because they're not normal. She says to tell everyone that normal is as normal does. She always wants everyone to know that she's all right. She's not in a bad place. I know she has yet to cross over, but it's because she likes being in the middle. She likes knocking people's cups over. She says she's done it a few times at the pool. She says that children freak the shit out of her, so she likes to stay away from anyone who has screaming children. She says it's like nails on a chalkboard. She loves animals. She says animals always see her. She says she wishes she could go back in time and fix a bunch of the things about her life. She said she wants everyone to know that she's good and she appreciates anyone listening to her story. She says, don't listen to what the media says about me. It ain't true.
She likes to exaggerate a lot about her stories. Does she still do this?
She says you gotta make things good for TV, but she says in this little mini-series, she's been completely honest about everything. She says she wants her truth out there finally. And anytime she would have somebody interview her, it was always a man. And they were always smug, and she wanted the smugness out.
I definitely noticed that when a man would be interviewing her, they would give off this like, ha ha ha, you're a hooker, you're going to do something for me after. And it's like, no, she's not doing that. So she would get very triggered by those people that would interview her.
Absolutely. She says it was always a way to trigger her so she would act out. She feels like she could never have a genuine conversation with nobody. Everyone always made her feel like she was the bad guy. There were a couple of women in prison that started fights with her as well, and she didn't get to spend much time with them. I'm not sure if she was in solitary confinement or not, but she spent a good amount of time alone. And there were 2 inmates that she feels like she could trust that would bring her some treats every once in a while, and she was grateful for them.
Was there anything else that happened while she was in prison?
She said that she was a sideshow act in prison. Anytime anyone would get a job there, they would always bring the new person near her. She said sometimes she would be singing, sometimes she would be laughing, sometimes she'd put on a show for people and make herself seem real crazy. She did it for entertainment purposes. Anyways, they would bring all the new people over and they would look at her and have fear in their eyes, and a lot of them left because of their fear of her. She says, I was a famous prison inmate and everybody loved to watch Scary Eileene come out. She said that there were a few people that weren't even working in the prison and really got the opportunity to see her because the guards and the police would get paid off. And she said she always was a sideshow. A lot of women in there didn't like her either. They wanted to have the center of attention on anybody else but her, and she was the only one to get it. No sirwee. She says, like I said earlier, I was going to be famous. I wish I got to be famous and rich. It would have saved a lot of my problems. I might have even had a relationship with a celebrity that I slept with back in the day.
She slept with a celebrity? Who?
She says it was no one we know, but she says it's Sean Cassidy. From what I can see, he's like an American singer, writer, producer. He started his career in high school. He made that song, Do Ron Ron, and he also came up with the song, Do You Believe in Magic? I know the music, but I definitely don't remember him. She says that he was the shit back then, and she got to sleep with him for free. No one paid no one. She said that was when I was real pretty.
Wow, is there anyone else?
She says, and I quote, there should be no one else. I didn't even know it was him until after I slept with him. She says, we were all drinking at a party, and then after I slept with him, one of the girls turned to me and said, oh my God, is that Sean Cassidy? I didn't even recognize him, but I slept with him, and he can't take that away from me. Not that he was good or bad or anything, she said.
Well, she absolutely has no filter, that's for sure.
Not even the slightest. I'm not sure whether to believe her or not, or she's joking, but this is what she's telling me to say, so I'm just the messenger.
Well, guys, that brings us to the end of the episode for today. On Friday of this week, we will be doing an episode for Martha P. It is the most crucial time for the LGBTQ plus community, and I think it is definitely a reason that we need to make sure that we put these episodes out there. So please make sure to subscribe and become a patron if you have yet to do so. It really will help us continue to bring you guys great content and also be able to buy the equipment that we need to do our up and coming YouTube channel, and we really want to get out there, guys. So until next time, guys, stay freaked out.